Hey, morning, Michelle. How you going?
Hello, afternoon.
Actually, it is. It's afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Estate and Succession Mastery. What are we? Wednesday, 24th of July, 2024, and it's all happening. We've got the latest business up your way is this red hot estate and succession planning business.
Yep,
You and Tom, and obviously it's going well already. So you're well into it after just a couple of weeks. So good on you.
sure are.
That's the way. Now, look, today I just wanted to talk on. Didn't want to make this about me at all, but I'm just going to say I had a knee arthroscopy on Monday, where go in and I learnt what epidurals mean, so that was an interesting thing. So I was absolutely numb from the waist down, and it's a very eerie feeling. So. But one of the things, Michelle, that really came out of it was at the end of the operation, the surgeon came to me while I was in recovery, and he handed me this. Where is it? He handed me this. Better not show his name, but this big sort of report, and had pictures of inside my knee and so on. But on the front page, he had like a traffic light system in regard to each of the different areas of my knee, and he rated, what was the cartilage like, meniscus, the kneecap. They have fancier words than this, but I can't remember what they all are. But basically, he gave a rating on each of the areas of knee, and then he gave a report on what he'd done, if I needed anything else done, and all those sorts of things. And it just got me thinking. I thought, wow, that's something that's checklists and scorecards are something that's really valuable and really helps people see, because he does the reports basically it's all on one page. The other pages have a whole lot of information in regard to how to exercise and all the detail, all that sort of stuff. But on the front page was everything I needed to know in regard to what had happened during my the operation on my knee. And I was just thinking, it's something I've been speaking to Gab and Tracy already in our business, and it's something we're going to discuss this week, to incorporate like a scorecard, so that every time I have a meeting with people, have the first free 30-minute call and so on, at the end of it, they're going to get from us basically a summary of where they are based on the conversation that we've had. And do you think those sorts of things are useful for must be still under anaesthetic. Do you think those sorts of things are useful for people to have a scorecard and a bit of a checklist in regard to how the meeting went?
Yeah, I think that sounds like a great idea. It sounds like it was very helpful for you and obviously made an impression. So
Yep.
I think most people would see that sort of thing as very helpful.
Yeah, look, absolutely. And I was sort of wondering, what would people look for when they're doing scorecards? If we do a scorecard for people as part of a conversation with them, the sort of things that they'd want feedback on. And so, because it's like having when you go in and see a doctor, and he does a diagnosis, and then he writes you a script or tells you where he thinks he needs to help you to make some progress. And so I wanted to be able to report back to people in regard to the conversations that we'd had as part of our meeting, our 30-minute meeting or our 2-hour meeting, depending on which one they take. And some of the things I thought would be, well, okay, so from a stop sign point of view, it means that we'd rate people. We'd either, put them over in a corner and have a red. They'd be in the red zone, they'd be in the orange zone, or they'd be in the green zone, depending on how prepared they are. So, for example, if people's wills and so on are out of date and all the documentation's out of date, that might be one of the fields in the scorecard. And, if everything's out of date, they get a red mark on that one in the red area. So you have like a sliding scale for each of maybe up to 10 things that we'd score people on. So I was thinking, are your wills up to date? Is there, in the conversation I've had with these people, is there an awareness of the sort of issues that might be creating real potential problems for them in the future? Are they aware? Are they unaware? Have they got it all covered? I'll just go through a couple more, but maybe you can think of some as well that would be worthwhile putting in there. The level of communication, whether there's good communication between mum and dad and the kids, whether there's any existing conflict in the family that has to be attention needs to be paid to. Is there fairness? Not so much talking about fairness with family members, but have they thought? Sorry, equality with family members, but have they thought about making sure it's fair, so that if one kid's been working in the business for 20 years and the others haven't, how do you sort of square that up so that there's fairness between each of the kids? Is there asset protection? Have they got something set up so that when they pass down to the next generation, Michelle, the assets will be protected for the bloodline and so on? So, and once again, simple. They're either going to be red, might have a bit of protection, so we can give them an orange score, and if they've done all their stuff with Life Legacy and Legal or Murdoch's over the last few years, they might have a green score. So, yay. But I want to be able to give people something, on a simple single page of paper, which shows them so they can just see it at a glance. If there's lots of red showing up, then it's obvious they need to do something in regard to where they are, or it's going to create real problems for their family. If it's all looking green, I'll walk to Timbuktu, because I've never seen it happen with anyone yet until after they've worked with us. But just a simple sheet to show them where they are, and the sort of things that they can do to move forward to fix that. Is there anything else that comes to mind for you that people should rate themselves on?
Not that I could think of, except potentially if there's any, not only conflict in your family, but conflict in your children's family if they're adults. But I just think that's such a good idea. Having a one page where you could see red things that you really need to pay attention to. And it also gives your advisors, it highlights the things that need to be addressed as soon as possible. For example, not only if their wills or estate planning is up to date, but maybe they don't have a will at all at the moment. So
yeah, that would definitely be a red mark, that one.
Yeah, and so in that case, you could do an interim will immediately and fix that problem initially, temporarily.
Yep. Sure.
But it would be helpful for advisors as well to address the things that concern you the most as well. So yeah, I think that's a good idea.
We'll put that into action this week.
Yes.
Anybody we talk to from next week on, we'll get a scorecard with the stoplights in there. But also just a bit of an executive summary in regard to where they should go for help to get this sorted. I just wrote down while we were talking, there would be taxation issues too. If they, is their current structure allowing for tax minimisation, not tax avoidance, but are they thinking about how to minimise the tax that they're paying? And I've got 2, 4, 6. I've got 8, so I just need two more before we finish today. Thanks, Michelle.
Super and life insurance, you could put that in. Is there super and life insurance nominations and things like that up to date?
Nominate beneficiary nominate. See, you're on a roll here. Super beneficiary. So we just need one more now, and then we'll come back and we'll be right for next week. No, that's great. Good. But Tom and I have talked about this a lot in the past too, and scorecards are always a good way to start off with people, because it helps helps clients self-select in regard to where their issues are and what they need to do. It just makes it very simple to see what they need to move forward. So I was going to go on to a couple of other things as well, but mindsets was one of them. But I was just wondering, over the last few weeks, Michelle, has there been any people you've been dealing with that have been that have sort of stood out for you and thought, gee, that's it's a pity they've let them get into that situation? Or is there any where you've been really happy with the outcome you've been able to provide for them?
I think probably a combination of all of that. I think at all times there is someone I see who is unhappy with where they're at and needs some help to get where they want to be. And also a lot of people we see who are really happy with the outcome. So, it's always across the board all the time.
Yeah, one of the reasons, Michelle, I think scorecards are so good is because if you can do one when you first meet people, and traditionally it's going to be lit up with the red signs and the orange signs, and probably hardly any green signs when we first meet them. And then after we finish going through the process with people, is then to go back and do the scorecard again with them, and hopefully everything will be over on the green side. And because sometimes I think people don't understand how much progress they've actually made, because it's you take people from one level of normal to another level of normal. They've come in, they've met you, they've paid money, they've gone through the process and so on, and they feel good about what the outcome is. But they very easily forget what it used to be before they started the process with us. And so I'm thinking if we can do a before and an after scorecard with people, it'll help them see the value that's been created and the progress that they've made along the way.
Yeah,
So
that's a good idea.
There's my thought for the day.
Nice.
And one of the things we talked about here was certainly, Michelle, was with scorecards and so on. A lot of times it's just in regard to the mindsets of the clients, and we've talked before about. Oh, what did I must have gone like that.
Yeah, that's.
Is that a Zoom? Is that a thing? I went like that, and a bubble came up. I've never seen that happen before, so I don't know what I did there. But certainly the mindsets of clients, and as I was saying, we talked about that book I wrote, the 10 mindsets of successful in estate and succession planning. It's about people having the right mindset before they come and get this stuff started too, isn't it? If you don't care for your family, you don't care for your kids and all that sort of stuff, it's very hard for us to make progress with people if their mindsets are wrong. So, we can also use scorecards to evaluate that. I'm still thinking about that bubble and the thumb in the bubble.
It's happened to me before as well.
See how to do it again. One of the issues that comes up very often, and certainly in regard to some clients we've dealt with recently and still doing some work with, is creating fairness between all the siblings. And mostly that's a pretty simple thing to do, but sometimes there can be jealousy and resentment from one child to a younger child, that the old child's going to get the business or the farm or something like that. And is that something you guys strike very often, where there's there's issues between the children? I mean, our job is to try and eliminate that conflict and so on, but sometimes it's buried deep resentment between one child to another sibling, and a feeling of unfairness. So how do you guys normally handle that? Is that something you come across?
Yeah, I think it typically comes right from childhood. They may have felt that child in particular has always been given the best things. Maybe they're the oldest
favorite.
Yeah. And so then it just naturally keeps progressing through, especially if they haven't dealt with those feelings through their life, and then it comes out at this sort of time when their mum and dad are giving the farm to eldest favorite, and the other kids are left to fend for themselves. But often I've found if you question them on it, they don't want the farm. They just are angry that this kid has got, all of the good things in life. So it's not really necessarily about that. Yep. It's typically other issues that are just not dealt with yet.
I like the way you say that, and that's why mental health issues and helping people with emotional resilience and all those sorts of things is part of what we do. We look out for, and that probably should be the 10th thing on my list. Is any red flags in regard to emotional stability between all the members of the family. And sometimes a couple of things. Sometimes parents may not have seen it, but the second part is also, Michelle, is that they may not know how to process it and deal with it. It's there's I meet people all the time where there's some real triggers and there's some real emotional triggers and baggage that people haven't dealt with, and I think that's where the great problem is that getting people to actually do something about it, to see someone, to have the conversations, to seek counselling, and so on. And I find that when we've offered it to people in the past, the ladies are more likely to stick their hand up and be prepared to go and have a chat to someone in regard to areas of emotional resilience and so on. Men sometimes it's a little bit harder, but having said that, it's a matter of how you present it to the client or the client's family member or whatever in regard to helping them to make that sort of progress, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think, yes, it is typically men who are a bit resistant to that, but I feel like it's getting better. It's not as much of an issue these days, and they are, if it's framed correctly, they are taking that opportunity to get the help they need.
Yep. It's I don't know why it seems more prevalent these days than it has been in the past, but it's kind of how life is, I guess, these days. So one of the other things, I was actually speaking to someone this morning. We were just reviewing their second year review, just going through and having a meeting with mum and dad, and I'll go on and have sessions with each of the kids. Now I know what the parents are looking at achieving. But the whole concept, which you guys include, Michelle, as part of your estate succession planning, is the creating handcuffs for siblings who might end up with a greater. Where are those thumbs coming from?
I want it to happen intentionally.
Maybe it's people watching and giving us. Oh, there they are. It's people who are watching and giving us a thumbs up. I've forgotten what I was talking about now. But putting handcuffs in place for maybe for the oldest child who's getting the property and there's not enough money to go around for for the second, third, fourth child, and so maybe you can just explain to everyone what handcuffs entail, so to speak, or whatever you call them in your wills, clawbacks or something. So
there's a couple.
Explain how they work. Thanks.
Couple of ways. One way is if you've got, say, one child getting the farm and 3 kids not getting the farm, and the variance between the proportions of the estate they get is vastly different. You could oblige the farm receiving child to make payments of money to the other 3 kids to sort of balance it out, not even it out, but just balance it a bit more to make it fairer. So the other kids receive a little bit more. The potential issues with that are whether there are cash supplies or other properties or things like that to give to the other children.
Superannuation and all those sorts of things.
Yeah. And also the ability of the farm receiving child to make those payments. So if they've already got a mortgage on the farm and they need to be careful about how much they can borrow if they need to borrow to pay the other children those payments. And they can often be paid in installments or lump sum, could be paid immediately, say 12 months after death, or it could be a 5 to 10 year progressive payment, just whatever works for in the circumstances.
Yeah. We're talking to someone that, sorry.
Yes, there you go.
I was just going to give an example. We were talking to someone the other day, weren't we, where there were 6 kids, and there's no way knowing that one child could afford to pay out equally 5 other siblings, so they could end up with the business. So, there has to be disproportionate, doesn't it? Yeah,
that's right, because the only other option really is just to sell the farm and then divvy it up between the kids, which is not really what anyone would want. So it's just really working with what you've got at the time to make it work.
Yeah. One of the things too is there's a big difference, isn't there, between leaving cash and leaving property? Because the rate of return on, I remember talking with you and Tom at some stage, and I mean, really, it can drift between 4 to 5 times, can't it? Leaving someone a $4 million property as opposed to leaving another sibling $1 million cash, in many ways can end up with the same income stream for both kids moving forward, because your rate of return on cash is way, way, way higher than the inflated property prices and so on, and what you can make out of that. In fact, I don't know how people can borrow money to run properties these days. The rate of return is traditionally so low. So there is a big differential, isn't there, between leaving one child cash and leaving another child property.
Yeah, and the other thing on that is if the property being left to them is an investment property, there could be tax implications kind of going the other way. So that's another difference between cash and property as well. So yeah, lots of things there.
No, absolutely, and sometimes I, people ask me, well, what would I do? And I, you sort of think, do you want a $20 million property or do you want $5 million cash? $5 million cash will see anyone through the rest of their life in any form. If you have $5 million, you invest it, and you look at for some capital growth and some investment growth, you're going to lead a pretty good life. So whereas the person that ends up with the property, fires, floods, droughts, stock prices, the price of the value of land may drop, all those sorts of things, and they got to work their backside off to make a living off that. Even though it might be a $20 million property, chances are nine times out of 10 or more, they're going to hand the property on to their children. So they're not actually getting any cash; they're just getting the ability to maintain the family dynasty, and have to work hard and put up all the stress and aggravation of living on a remote property to make a living, while brother or sister is living down in the city with $5 million cash in their pocket. They're doing okay.
And on that point, which is kind of what you had in one of your handcuff points, was about the other option. If that $20 million farm child then decided, well, I don't want this, I want my $5 million cash, I'll sell the farm and take the $20 million for myself. We can also factor that in. If they sell within a certain period of time after death, then the property can be offered to the other children to purchase if they genuinely were interested in running it. Sure. And if no one takes it, then provision to have the $20 million divided in some proportions across the remaining children.
Yeah, those handcuff clauses and so on, it's usually on a sliding scale, isn't it? The longer the person stays on the farm, the more of it they're entitled to. But if mum and dad pass away and just give one child a $20 million property and someone else $5 million worth of cash, and the next day the $20 million property gets sold, then that's kind of a little unfair. You've got one kid with 20 million cash and one with 5. So we can bring in some issues there over a period of time to distribute that to the other child or children as well, so that there's a bit more. It's a little more fair between everyone. Yeah. But that's the job you guys do. That's right. That's why you guys are so smart at all this stuff. But the big issue, isn't it, Michelle, is that communication is always at the core of this, and it was. It was interesting today after doing this annual review with these clients, and we were going through talking about these exact things. Actually, that's why it's kind of ironic we're discussing this today. But they were talking about how 2 of the kids are going to get some property, and the third one is going to get cash, and they had both the kids who were getting the properties were going to owe their sibling some money, but we actually reduced the amount they were going to pay to the sibling who was getting cash, because you can't put a noose around the neck of the child getting the property where they can't afford to. Life is just going to be hell for them for the rest of time. They'll be spending all their time trying to pay out their siblings and having that debt, as opposed to them ending up with a little more and so on. So communicate, and these clients very much said, can you talk to the kids and explain this all to them so that everyone's really clear beforehand, so that mum and dad passed away last night, it's not going to be a surprise to the children in regard to what the outcomes are going to be, and how there'll be differentials, but why there'll be differentials, and how it's actually more fair for everyone. Okay.
Yeah.
Because that's why, and so, we're obviously having meetings, Zoom meetings with each of the kids to sort of go through what the final outcome is. But communication is certainly core. And at the end of the day, it's all about creating family harmony. And dare I say, getting together at Christmas as mates.
Yep.
Over a glass of wine.
Yeah.
So there. But no, look, it's been interesting, and it's funny how sometimes we come up with ideas, and as I say, it took me sitting in the hospital and getting a report from the doctor, which showed, how my knee had performed, so to speak, and what future issues I may or may not have with it, and this idea of having a scorecard and the traffic lights and so on, I think for all our clients and prospective clients is just a good way of people seeing very quickly at a glance where they are, where their big issues are at the moment, and how they can be helped to move forward. So within a week or so, Michelle, you'll see
And
the
then
results
seeing
of
the
that.
progression. Yeah.
Yeah, and then at the end, being able to show them, where they've come from and where they've got to. So, but anyway, look, our time's up today, and so thanks for getting involved, Michelle. Always nice to have a chat and get your perspective on some of these things as well. And I'm going to be up near Weeper in 2 weeks' time, so we might have to take a rain check on our next one and put it off for a couple of weeks after that. So look forward to seeing you again then. Hope everyone's having a great day out there, and if you need any help, certainly in regard to your estate succession planning and so on, the team we're using a lot and Michelle's involved with, Life Legacy Legal, and what's your website for that? Is lifelegacylegal.com, isn't it?
.com.au.
Okay. Yep. .com.au and ruralsuccessionsolutions.com for us if you want to have a chat with us. So everyone have a great day. Thanks, Michelle, and talk to you again in a few weeks. Okay. See you, Michelle.
Bye.
See if that thumb can come up again. See you later. Bye.